Nintendo Switch has brought us games like Ultra Street Fighter 2, but what we really want is the arcade perfect version. Or is it? We're going to be talking about all that and more, but first, coffee. So the water is now boiling, and we are ready to... Actually, we're not ready to make coffee at all. Sorry, it is early in the morning and I'm totally not awake yet. I really need a container for all this stuff. Oh wait, I have one. Just popped into the old Daiso, the land of cheap goods that are about $1 or $2. This is a flat basket, which I'm going to turn into a real basket using my engineering degree, which I don't have. Or do I have an engineering degree? Ultimate container. But what we really want is the arcade perfect container. Now I've got all my coffee stuff in a container. This is much better. But what really struck me is that I saw some news on the internet that said that Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, which is no less than 12 games. 12. Read it, count it, and weep. 12 Street Fighter games, and they're going to be arcade perfect, which means not the home console version, and not an ultimate version like what we got, or an ultra version like what we got on the Nintendo Switch. And I was really, really excited. I was like, oh cool, arcade perfect. In fact, when I got games like Neo Geo, King of Fighters 99, Goro, Mark of the Wolves, a lot of the ACA arcade archive versions of games for the Switch, I was really excited, but there's one thing that they've all been missing that has been really bothering me and making it impossible to enjoy the game when I know that there are other versions of the game that I prefer. Anyway, let's grind! So yeah, it really, really annoyed me that they were saying it was arcade perfect, which it is, but it means that one, it is like the first version of the game. It is not actually after balance changes had been introduced into like later versions of the game. Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max, which I think even had like extra characters in it. There are situations like that when you might prefer to have not the arcade version, you like to have the sort of ultimate version, or like things like Ultra Street Fighter 2, which I don't actually know if this is the ultimate version of this game. What really, really bugged me about these arcade perfect versions of things like King of Fighters 99 and Garo, Mark of the Wolves and Fatal Fury and all of them is that they have one thing missing, and that is training mode. If you're going to make a fighting game and you're not going to introduce a training mode, then you cannot expect people to be going online and fighting, because the same thing happens every time. All you get is disappointment. You go on, you fight, you lose, you go, why am I losing? Maybe it's because I'm not practicing, and you go to practice mode, and there is no practice mode. It is really, really annoying when a game prevents you from being able to get better at it, and I think it's a massive mistake, because they clearly want you to go online. They have as few modes as possible. For example, games like Street Fighter 5, they have very few modes, well, especially when it first launched, you know, there's like no gallery, or maybe there was a gallery, but there's very little going on in terms of bonuses and stuff to do that wasn't just going online and fighting ranked matches or casual matches. It's quite stressful to go online knowing that you're not prepared. What you really want to be able to do is go into training mode and to try out new combos, things that you haven't tried before. Like, I want to try blocking a bit more often, or I want to be playing a bit more offensively, or I want to try fighting against certain characters that I don't know their moves. I'm going to turn it on to CPU, and I'm only going to play against this one type of character. But if you have the arcade perfect version, and you don't have training mode, you really just can't do that. And so I have a theory. There's actually a different reason why they keep creating these arcade perfect versions. I always forget how long it takes to grind these beans. It's like the age-old problem. If you run in the rain, do you get less wet, or do you get more wet because you come into contact with more of the rain? The rain? The rain. I'm hunting wabbits. So, it's all well and good that Capcom has decided to make us another version of Street Fighter 2. In fact, 4 new versions of Street Fighter 2 for the Switch. But it really annoys me that there is no training mode. And so when I started to think about it, business-wise and common sense-wise, why would anyone go and do something like that? Why would someone create a game that is just impossible to practice, impossible to get good at, and so you're forced to go online and lose? and constantly feel like I just cannot get better at this game. Why would Capcom go so far as to create a game that would make us feel that way? It's going to cost something like $40, I think, for 12 games, but really they can't be making that much money off it, really, can they? And so I started to realize guiding us towards Street Fighter V, which is their current game, the one that has all the DLC, the one that is up to date, the one that is going to make them the most possible money. That is really the goal, potentially. I mean, it's just a theory, that is the real reason why they would want to release arcade perfect versions of the games. They want to frustrate you so much that you end up playing the new versions of the games, the versions that have all the money making still built into them, with DLC, with promotions, with the fact that it's current, there's the whole scene around the game. I don't think that their intention is to create a new community around old games. I don't know really how much it benefits them to do something like that. Really, if they don't need it to be online. I think the only reason they would put like these online modes in is not for you to really enjoy playing online, especially if you can't practice. It's so that you go online, you feel frustrated about the fact that this game is really difficult. No matter how old a Street Fighter the game is, they are still really hard to... What is that sound? Oh, that's my rice cooker. No matter how old the game, it is actually still very difficult to get good at even the old versions of Street Fighter. And without a training mode, I think it's just nearly impossible. Alright, that seems like enough. Alright, Mocha, let's see how you taste today. Still feels a little bit too chocolatey. It's like not really coffee anymore. It's like hot, really dark chocolate. So essentially what happened was, yes, I saw this news that it is not the later versions of these games, it is not the console versions of these games, it is the arcade perfect versions of these games. And that actually really, really upsets me, because I don't know if they're doing it on purpose, but it clearly seems like the goal is to make people play Street Fighter V, and it has been for the past 2 years. Is no matter what you want from the old versions of these games, we would much prefer that you just play Street Fighter V. Why? Because they put all their money into it. They pump money into prize money. They have the Capcom Pro Tour for esports. They want you to be buying the DLC, the soundtracks, getting the costumes, the extra stages. I really enjoy Street Fighter, even Street Fighter V, but I can't play Street Fighter V on my Switch, and so that's why I get really excited when they release stuff like Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 3, Street Fighter Alpha, Street Fighter Alpha 2, Street Fighter Alpha 3, all these games on the Switch. I thought finally I can get into Street Fighter games that were a little bit more complex than Street Fighter 2, not to say more difficult, but more complex than Street Fighter 2, with the Street Fighter Alpha or Street Fighter 3, stuff like that. I thought I'd be able to play that on Switch, and the problem is, now it's going to be the version I do not want to play. And how do I know this? Well, I don't have it. Oh no, I do have it here. Hold on. So actually, after I bought Goro Mark of the Wolves on Nintendo Switch, I went straight out and I bought the download version of Goro Mark of the Wolves here on the PS Vita, and this was actually my preferred version of playing, because I could actually go into training mode and try out new characters, try out new special moves, try out new combos, new things that would hopefully make me better at the game. That was not something I could do with Garo Mark of the Wolves on the Nintendo Switch version. Isn't it kind of crazy to be leaving a Switch version and going back to a PS Vita version, a console that came out in what, like 2011? I'm going all the way back to the Vita, and I do love the Vita, but I would much prefer to be able to play games in 720p, you know, in a sort of HD-ish resolution on here, or even on the screen there. Games like Alpha 3, Alpha 2, Street Fighter 3, Third Strike, stuff like this. I wanted to be able to play them and get better at them, practice them, learn the ins and outs. But now if I want to do that, I have to go back to the Xbox 360 version, or the PS3 version, or the PS2 versions of things like Street Fighter Alpha 2, Alpha 3, or Third Strike on the Dreamcast, on the PS3, on the Xbox 360. Why, Capcom? Why would you do this to me? And the only reason I can think of is they want me to play Street Fighter 5, which I also want to. do. I actually want to play Street Fighter V, but it is never going to run on this hardware. As far as I can tell, I don't think it's ever going to run on this hardware. So anyway, I had just woken up in the morning and I just needed a cup of coffee, and I saw the news about Street Fighter, and I find that incredibly disappointing. I don't think that makes Capcom a bad company. I don't think that makes them bad people, and I don't also blame them either. I think releasing as many arcade perfect versions of Street Fighter to guide people towards Street Fighter V is actually quite a business sense intelligent thing to do. In terms of business sense, quite an intelligent thing to do, because that's actually what Ultra Street Fighter 2 did for me. I think buying Ultra Street Fighter 2 on the Switch was what got me into playing Street Fighter 5 on PlayStation and on PC, and I'm really, really glad that I did. It was through the old versions of the games that I actually realized that I want to get back into current Street Fighter, and that has worked out really well for them. So as a strategy, I can't fault it. It clearly does work. But I'd much prefer to have just had, you know, the console versions of Alpha 2, Alpha 3, and, you know, Street Fighter Third Strike, versions that had training modes, versions that had the achievements built in, all the extra stuff that came with those console versions, the balance changes and everything. Actually, I don't really care about the achievements. Interesting, this coffee's kind of growing on me. At first I didn't really get into it. The whole chocolatey nature of it was a bit too much. It was kind of like hot chocolate. Now I'm kind of getting into it. But no, I just want coffee. Real coffee. So tell me, what do you think? Would you prefer to have arcade perfect versions of the games, or would you prefer to have the console versions of the games? Or would you prefer to have these slightly new and updated ultra versions of games? Games that cannot be exactly like they were in the old days, but they have been updated with what we think are quality of life enhancements for games like Street Fighter, making them Ultra Street Fighter 2. I would really like to know what it is you guys think is the best, because personally I would much prefer to have had the console versions. I think I would have been able to get into it more, but as a result, I think 30th anniversary collection of Street Fighter on the Switch coming out at the end of May is only going to make me want to go back to my PlayStation and play Street Fighter V. And for Capcom, I think money-wise, that is exactly what they needed to do, but not what I wanted them to do. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Don't forget to thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. I hopefully will have, you know, news update videos like this more frequently in the future. Now that I've got my camera set up properly on a tripod, I'm hopefully just gonna not move it. It's just gonna sit there and I'm gonna be ready to make videos. So yeah, do all that great stuff, and I'll see you in the next NihongoGamer video.